Oh, I think you've just asked me two of the biggest questions you could possibly ask me in the space of 30 seconds, which is fantastic. Um, um, let's answer the second question first about the food and things, because it's Mikulash today and everybody gives everybody chocolate because it's baby Jesus's day, and nobody really knows why they give each other things. They give each other little gifts um, because of traditions that no one really understands. Um, my rule with my children is the same as my rule with everything else. Control what you can control, and don't worry about what you can't. Right? You can take an umbrella, but you can't stop the rain. So, my rule with my children is when I am around my children, I try to set a good example for them, and I try to orientate them in healthy directions. I don't like to think of it as dictating what my children do, but it is a little bit like that. Mm. Yeah, well, there's a classic argument which has two sides, which is, do you let your children grow up natural and wild, or do you give them a set of rules and guidelines to follow? And both ways are correct if you do them right. You don't want your children so wild that they don't even listen to you. um, and you don't want your children so unhappy because they can't make any choices for themselves. Because the end result of both is really bad. Um, I had a student who was telling me that up to the age of 17, she had to be home before it got dark all year. Yeah, I know. I know. Like, it doesn't matter what you live through, there's always somebody else going through something worse somewhere. So it's always worth thinking about it like that. But I try to guide my children in the right direction. I try to give them some rules which are useful for their lives. Um, as parents or people who are older with more experience, and the fact they have a bit more responsibility, they should be guides. They should be leaders. They should be mentors. Um, and when my son was born, which was 7 years ago, I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't like what I saw. I thought, if my son were to meet me today, he probably wouldn't like me because I'm not really a great role model, I don't think, in any sense. Um, yeah, I can bullshit as good as anybody can bullshit. I can talk about all the great things and wonderful things that I've done in my life and how I know about this, and I know this about this, and then I don't. Nah, it's not good to go down that road. So I decided to take a different approach, which is to try to lead by example, which started with trying to stop drinking alcohol. Not that I was drinking too much, because everybody drinks too much, and that means drinking too much is normal. So, yeah. When normal is bad, good seems to be amazing. Yeah. See, we don't think about that, but that has an effect on us in our lives. If our experience of life is that we've had a lot of some kind of negative experience, then we call that negative experience normal. So that when we meet something which is average, we think it's amazing, not realizing that it's not actually amazing. It's just better than what we experienced before. And we all do that in our lives. Yeah. like 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 the first time we find a partner who's not completely psychotic. And that's an experience that surprisingly most people I know have been through. It's like, oh wow, this person's the most amazing person in the world because they're not trying to use me, manipulate me, or or yeah, control and micromanage every little thing in my world. And so you meet someone who gives you a little bit of freedom, and you're like, wow. Um, and that's a that's an experience that a lot of people don't get beyond, and they spend their whole lives thinking that average is amazing. So the first thing I tried to do was stop drinking. That took me 7 years. The second thing I tried to do was take more exercise, which was it was a bit like in the circus they have that rope that somebody walks across. It's called the tight rope. Yeah, and somebody walks across it. Well, 7 years ago, me starting exercise was like getting an elephant to walk a tightrope. Yeah, it was funny. And uh, took me a long time to organize myself and my thoughts and my mind and everything to be able to do it all correctly. Um, Part of it was because I wanted to do something and I wanted to be a good example for my kids, and part of it was I wasn't happy about some things in my life and I had to channel my energy somewhere. And sport and exercise is absolutely the best way to channel your energy because it always leads to something positive when you do that. Um, and that there's always a certain satisfaction after doing some kind of physical activity. I think it's partly because the breathing process of exercise alkalizes the human body. And the single most important factor in human health. That's a pretty big statement to make. Okay, let's go with it. The single most important factor in human health is breathing. You stop breathing, you die. And so anything that involves um, lightly elevated heart rate, getting more oxygen into the body is really good for relaxation and for organizing your thoughts and also planning, preparation, organization, getting out, meeting people, maybe doing team sports or playing competitions or games of something. They're all helpful and useful things. So, so I wanted to change my life in that way. And my aim was to do something every day. And now, 7 years later, I am up to, on average, 6 days a week. I do 1 hour of training a day. And it's all a big experiment to see what is humanly possible. and to see what works and what doesn't work. And to discover things that are so extremely simple that we never think about them very much. Do you know, good ideas are like the wind. It's always there, you just don't really see it. And after 7 years of organization and realization, I came to a conclusion a few weeks ago, which is so completely simple that I don't know why it took me 7 years to come to it. This is a long time, 7 years. It's a lot of days. It's 360 days times 7. It's a long time to come to a very simple conclusion, which is that which we do first, we achieve. So what does that mean? That which we do first, we achieve. That means whatever you set out to do in the day, whatever you put first on your list, you will achieve for sure. Everything else is a question mark, because you don't know if you'll get beyond the first thing. But you'll achieve the first thing. Whether it's have breakfast, or have a shower, or go to school, or meet someone, or whatever. You will achieve that if you put it first on the list. Everything else is questionable, but you can achieve that. So take the single thing that's most important to you and put it first on your list. So that's it. My aim is to get up, and the very first thing that I try to do each day is exercise. At the moment, my alarm is set for 5:40. And I have changed my timetable in the school this year, this term. I completely went in the opposite direction from the direction I was going in at the beginning of the year. Well, at the beginning of the year, school started at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I thought the right thing to do would be to have more school time for more productive work during the day. So I wanted to make it start at 7. But what I did was I went the other way this term. I started at 9. So I don't open the school until 9. And I take 1 hour in the morning to do some kind of exercise. Whether it's jog or do some weights or do an exercise bicycle or go to the swimming pool, swim. And that is the start of my day. Once I get that done, the day is whatever it is. So rather than trying to fit my exercise into the day, I completely pushed all my day to start later and said, okay, because before I was putting my exercise in the afternoon or in the evening. But now I'm putting it in at the beginning, and it works more just because of that principle of what you put first on the list. Yeah, part of the problem is that. The other part of the problem is so many things to do. Yeah, that I was always left with a choice of, okay, do this which is important, or do this which is important, and I always had to make that choice. So I then decided, no, I don't like making these choices, because then sometimes I can't exercise because I have to go and do something somewhere, or be with somebody, or help someone with something, or whatever, and I don't like feeling. I don't like feeling like I'm losing when I'm still doing the right thing. Because yes, I'll do this, which is the right thing to do, but then I won't get to do what I want or what I need to do. So How do you solve that problem? Completely change the timetable, go in the opposite direction. And then another strange thing happened when I did that. Students said to me, "Oh, we're so happy you start later because it was a lot of pressure for us to get here on time in the morning, and now we don't feel under pressure." Oh, well, yeah, yeah, they're, yeah, yeah, well, they're not, let's just say they're not as organized as usually as I am, and they always had a problem getting here on time. And for them, it was better to start later. But these are people who came to me saying, "We want to start as early as possible." And I said, "Well, I don't open the school until 8, so 8's like the earliest." And now it's like, "I don't open the school till 9." And they're like, "Yay!" And I'm like, "Well, that's not as early as possible, but okay." So sometimes when people tell you what they want, they don't really understand that it's not what they need.